I'm gonna chase it, and I'm gonna chase it. I know we can't ignore it, no matter how hard we try. And I'm gonna chase it, and I'm gonna chase it. I know we can't ignore it, no matter how hard we try.
Deana Hassanein, welcome to the 2020 podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. It's really interesting because you're someone that is. I came across your videos and I was really surprised because your Instagram looks great.
Thank you.
And when I saw your videos, it was just, for me personally, I was looking at that, and for me it was reliving memories, and not great fond memories personally, because it was all maths.
Yeah.
What are you? What do you do?
Oh, so basically, I used to be a teacher. So I studied economics at uni,
Yeah.
fell into teaching, and then packed it all up a few years ago. I was like, no, not
No
for
more.
me. Decided obviously to pursue presenting, but because I had been teaching maths and economics, I thought, let me carry this on,
Yeah.
and I'm going to tutor. And I've been doing it for like 4 years now. So yeah.
You're enjoying it though?
Oh, I
because
love it.
to do something for 4 years, it is a bit of a passion then.
Yeah.
But then you must really enjoy maths.
Do you know what? I actually don't mind it. It's not like
Yeah.
I'm in love with maths.
Yeah,
I would never
yeah.
say to someone, oh my God, let's have a conversation about maths.
maths,
It's
yeah.
more, what it is about maths for me is that you need English and maths, right? In this country, if you want to do well or you want to get accepted on apprenticeships
Yeah.
or jobs or uni, whatever your future is, you need maths and you need English. The problem is maths is getting harder. And for those young people that haven't had the best start in life or had the best education, it's really difficult to grasp the concepts. And the past 2 years, I've made a conscious decision to tutor students that are being told they're going to fail.
Right.
So obviously, I'm always asking parents what level is your child at? What do
Yeah.
they need to achieve? Because for me, in school, sometimes I feel like children are told they can't,
Yeah.
and it should be a space where people are being told you can.
Yeah.
And if they haven't had the right start in life, things like adding and subtracting, multiplying and dividing, it's just not
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
work. And there's some amazing YouTubers out there like Maths Genie and Corbett Maths that are doing great videos.
Yeah.
But I can't see any videos being made for those that just don't get why. Why is this happening? And for me, that's why I was like, I want to teach maths because I want those young people to get on with their
To
lives
understand that.
past this stage. I'm not saying maths is irrelevant, but
Yeah.
sometimes you just need to make it real. And
Yeah.
I don't think maths is real most of the time. It's like memorize this, do this format, and that's why I like maths, because I just want to help people get past this stage
Right.
and do what they need to do.
Would you want to create that kind of content that kind of is adjusted for those kind of students?
Yeah, and that's what I'm doing. I think if you look at my maths videos and compare
Yeah,
it to like
okay.
Maths Genie and Corbett Maths, it's very, very different.
Yeah.
Because I try and make it as real as possible. Because
Yeah.
as I said, some people's brains, they're really visual. They can look at something and, see it in their mind. Other people really can't. They need to write down and they need to work with their numbers. So
Yeah.
I'm just trying to create content for people that are just like, I want to do well, but I just don't get it. That's what I'm doing.
See, where I was with maths, I was, that the struggling student, the one that was the dumbest in top set.
I hate the word
Right.
dumbest, but yeah, I know,
So,
bottom of the top,
The
basically.
bottom of the top set. I was
Yeah.
because it's literally because I'm talking about myself. I used to struggle with maths.
What did you struggle with, if you don't mind me asking? What
Um,
was it?
I think personally, I mean, if you sat here and you actually quizzed me on maths, I'd be all right. I'd actually be okay. But I think it got to a case where I was resitting exams because I wasn't hitting a specific number so many times that I kind of lost interest in maths and lost passion in maths. By the time I was in year 11, I had done maths across 3 different exam boards about 6 times, and I've already got my A at the time. So I was resitting again and again because I was just not hitting the A star. But the interest for me to hit the A star just kind of decreased and increased with the humanitarian subjects afterwards.
Okay.
So I kind of saw myself aligning that way simply because I was happy with an A.
So, sorry, I'm just going to understand that again. You kept retaking until you got the A. Is that what you mean? Or you were getting A and wanted the A star?
I was getting A's and I was happy with getting an A,
Okay.
but the school wanted me to get an A star.
Okay, cool.
And which is a good thing for schools to encourage. Cool, no
Sure.
problem. But for me personally, it was just like a case of I've lost interest because I've got so many other subjects and so many other GCSEs to actually focus on at the time in year 11 that I just wanted to be rid of maths. And funny enough, that was the end of maths for me. From then onwards, there's never been maths lessons in that sense, actually, until I got to my skills test and realized, man, I have to go through all of this again. I wish I actually met you before then, because then you could have given me a hand with that. But I mean, that's all done anyway. So
Sure.
I'm happy with that, really. And I mean, you went from maths to presenting, so you know, you want to create content, but you're also interested in maths. But your presenting isn't just focused on maths, is it?
No, not at all. So ideally, in the long run, I'd like to present documentaries. So I just finished presenting a documentary, actually, which will be out soon. I can't tell you what it's called yet.
Okay.
And for me, it's just, I really enjoy having conversations and learning from people and bringing up topics that people are speaking about or are not speaking about, and raising awareness. So for me, that's what I really want to do, and that's what I've been doing.
Awesome. I mean, and you've seen a couple of our episodes, and I guess what you would have noticed is that we tend to talk about things that people don't really talk about often, or should talk about a lot more. And some of these topics actually relate more to the youth and to students and to kids than ever before, because these are the things we're talking about today that they don't talk about enough in school. And a lot of good schools out there, and I know many good schools where they try to tackle a lot of social issues during school time, and it's very important that they do, but it's also very tough to cover that whilst also trying to cover the curriculum
100%.
and to find the time to do that and to maintain the interest from the kids. Stuff like, you know, the for example, the new laws on upskirting, for example, or sexting, or even knife crime, or, you know, we just had Black History Month, we had Remembrance Day last week. You know, things that are important issues that are going on in the world. And what happens is, I mean, this is the I was doing a bit of a talk the other day to some students, and what I mentioned to them was, when I was growing up, Remembrance Day obviously came every single year for me, and I used to sit there and partake in the 2-minute silence. And I think it's a really interesting topic for us to talk about right now as well, to partake in the 2-minute silence. And I used to do it because I used to want to respect other people's cultures.
100%.
But now at this age, I'm looking at it thinking, this is my culture though. That 2-minute silence is something that I've grown up with now, and it's part of my culture. Why don't I integrate that more towards something for me as well? Like, why should I feel like this is part of someone else's culture and this 2-minute silence for other people? No, this 2-minute silence for me to use to remember whatever I want to remember as well.
100%.
Because World War I isn't just about British soldiers dying in the war, which is very an important thing to remember, but also there's been a lot of colonial soldiers that have been dying in the war. There's a lot of changes that has happened because of the war. The war has led to many different events across the time span that may have led to me being in this country.
Of course.
Because that's how much it affects migration, for example. So for me, it was a case of, actually, now, that 2-minute silence, that Remembrance Day is my day as well. And it's part of my culture as well.
Of course.
You know, and I can remember it in maybe a different way. Maybe I won't wear the poppy in the same way. And maybe I can wear the poppy in the same way, like whichever it is, it's up to me to use it. But at the same time, I can still show my respect, because it's my culture as well that I'm living through, and it's my future as well, because as the time goes on, the kids are going to still have Remembrance Day, but if they fall out of sync and out of loop and out of love with it, then they're not going to care too much about Remembrance Day, and that's not right
100%.
For Remembrance Day, personally.
And it's with everything. It's not just about Remembrance Day. School is one of the best places for young people to develop, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking about educational development. Of course, that's important. I'm not trying to say that education isn't important and, you know, having life skills is more important than, you know, being able to read or know how to do maths. But school should be creating safe spaces for young people to develop, understand who they are, understand their future options, understand the culture we live in, the society we're living in. And sometimes I just feel like schools aren't doing that. And I don't mean to bash schools or teachers, because I know teachers work hard.
Yeah.
Teachers are not doing it for the money, and anyone who says that is crazy, because there's so much work behind the scenes, lesson planning, marking, you know, the emotional relationships you build with students to try and get them there. It's too much. But really, how much are schools doing to make young people understand about life after school?
Yeah.
I mean, at your school, what do you have, life skill lessons? And
so we've integrated it, and I think we're very good with the focus of it. It's just a case of I don't know how much of an impact it's going to have and how much time is being spent on certain topics. So whether we're talking about financial topics, with kids growing up and understanding the world of tax and finances and how to work with their money, how to even really truly even into looking into investment and looking at the long term, because at some point you want to be smart with your money.
Of course.
So where are you supposed to learn how to be smart with your money?
School.
So if we're not smart with your money, then we're going to grow up and end up in poverty. So and maybe, I don't know, maybe I haven't experienced enough schools in different areas, because if I go to another school in a more affluent area and they and they may teach about ways to spend your money or what to do with your money, there is actually lessons on budgeting, but that's not what investment is.
Of course not.
That's called surviving. That's good. Let me show you how to survive with your money. And I want to know how to make my money grow, so then I don't need to worry about survival. I can worry about living.
Definitely.
You know?
And I think also, sometimes when you're at that young age, you don't know where life's going to take you. Even few years ago, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life.
Yeah.
Like, at all. I thought I had my plan figured out, and it changed. It's not just about teaching young people how to invest, it's teaching young people about the system we live in.
Yeah.
So what are interest rates? So in maths, you get that question all the time: simple interest, compound interest, VAT. And students are looking at me like, do you know, I was at that thing where I add 20%. And I'm like, technically, yeah, because that's how they're being taught. But they need to know what VAT is. Yeah. They need to know what simple interest
the why
is.
Behind maths.
100%, not even why behind maths, why behind life.
Yeah.
This is the system we live in, right?
Yeah.
With politics, we've got an election coming up, right? Does your school talk about the political system we're living in and why you need to vote and how your vote works or anything like that?
Nope.
My school didn't. I grew up really passionate about politics because my parents were, so that's completely different. But for households where they're completely disconnected from it, and these young people are going to go out in society, live in this world and think, how am I going to change the UK? I'm not happy with something. They don't even understand how to vote.
The only way for students, and what schools do for that, is as simple as A-level politics. But that's for the selective students that actually have an interest and pick those subjects. But everyone's going to vote at one point.
Not
everyone
everyone.
needs to.
I've never voted.
Oh, you haven't? Okay.
Never voted.
Well, everyone's in a position to vote.
Of course.
But if you haven't had any sort of basis of education of why you should even vote, who you should, or not even who, but whys and how to vote and how the system works, then it's very dangerous, because that's where, and this is something that came up in the news very recently, and I think Al Jazeera did a good documentary style video on this, where they spoke about how far right media outlets across the internet have kind of almost kind of conditioned people to follow what they say and believe what they say without, and misguided them. And those people, the vulnerable people that will fall into that trap, are those that haven't had this sort of a strong basis of education in politics.
Of course.
And it's very scary, because then they'll make decisions and they'll start thinking, migrants, no, refugees, no, Muslims, no, whatever. Like, it's so many different kind of groups, and there'll be othering that will occur. And that's a growing trend that used to happen back in the 1930s when we had a couple of dictators running the world.
Yeah.
So that it's a very dangerous kind of position to be in. But I guess again I keep saying this, which is, we control the media as well. We control the content, meaning we are creating something where people can listen in and actually understand there's more to it than that, and we have to kind of get a lot more clued up, and we need to be a lot more woke with certain topics, because it's actually going to affect our lives.
100%. But if you're not being told that in school, when do you see it, right?
Yeah.
When do you see
sometimes a little too late.
100%. And that happens all the time. And it's crazy, because I know schools have so much on their agenda. I completely understand that. And as I want to say again, I'm not bashing teachers and schools, because I know there's a lot to do with funding, but these are young people, right? Stop telling young people they're not going to amount to anything just because they're not going to hit all their target grades.
Yes.
How many students do you know that may struggle a little bit with other subjects, but are like amazing at coding, or like built their own PC,
or good at art,
or all these creative things and things that matter in 2019?
Yeah.
Coding. How much money can you make from coding?
It's the future.
And I tutor this student who's in year 11 who knows how to code all sorts of things. He says things to me that just goes over my head, means nothing to me, yet he's being made feel stupid because he doesn't understand Pythagoras' theorem.
Yeah, it's like and we have a lot of people, and to be honest, I kind of want to challenge this notion that's coming out. You have a lot of stars in the world right now that look back and they often say, my teacher wasn't great, or I had loads of teachers that discouraged me. And then they, for example, rappers do all the time when they talk about it in their lyrics, and they're like, so and so said this to me, but look at where I am now.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't want to ever be that teacher. And what I realized, especially during I'd say the last 6 months, I'm seeing kids finish school and enter my community out there. So, and I work very locally, meaning I see the students outside in a sense of I could be just doing grocery shopping, or I could be wherever. I can't even avoid it because this is where I live.
Yeah.
I grew up here. I'm not gonna exactly move houses because the students are living and doing their normal day-to-day life activities here. So when I see them, do I want to be in a position where they look at me and they think, that's that teacher that discouraged me, I don't really like him, he never encouraged me, all of these kind of things, or he said this to me, he said I'm always going to end up working in McDonald's.
Yeah.
Whether he actually does and he looks at me thinking he was right, but I still don't like him because he said that, or I've made it and I'm not working in McDonald's but I still don't like him.
Yeah.
Right? I don't want to be that teacher. I want to be that teacher that says to you, I'm going to help you and do my best to get you the grade. However, not everyone's going to be cut out for a grade or a certain number, and that's fine.
Yeah.
You're okay.
The rest is
You're
on
going to
you.
live. And when you do, I'm now going to tell you, you need to work hard. Whatever you do, you need to work hard. This teacher encouraged me to remember working hard is important, and being productive is important. Waking up early is important, or having a healthy lifestyle is important.
Yeah. Resilience is important.
Resilience is important. Talking to someone when you're going through struggles is important.
Yeah.
Understanding that social media, it shouldn't shape you, for example. And I can say that because I grew up with that generation. Not many teachers do these kind of talks. But for me to instill that confidence or self-esteem has suddenly become one of my most focal points of actually leading anything or just being in a school, because I realize I'm impacting and I am creating the community.
Exactly.
Everyone wants to complain about the youth and wants to complain about the community and what's happening, but the teachers are the ones behind creating this community, and I want to do it in the best way possible for them, because then it impacts on the rest of them. If they can grow up and realize, you know what, I want to help that elderly woman get off the bus, and I want to have the manners to do this, and I want to do this, and I want to do that, and I want to know about finance, and I want to know how to build up my skills, so then I can use those skills to make myself independent enough to not have to get a job suddenly.
Of course.
That mentality is very different, and if I can instill different kind of confidences in people, then I'm happy.
I agree. The biggest lie we tell students and make students believe is that school, college, uni, job. Does life work like that?
No.
It really, really doesn't. So all teachers and parents and any sort of, educators or anyone they come across can do is just try and prepare them for life in terms of try your hardest, try and get your GCSEs, research your paths, think about what you're going to do. So I'm so happy you said that thing about McDonald's, because I remember sitting in my GCSEs and we had a pep talk before our maths exam.
Yeah.
And I remember this so vividly. And I just remember our teacher going, if you don't do well, you're going to end up working in McDonald's. Is that what you want? And I just sit there thinking now, I know students working in McDonald's. They're 16 with a job.
That's good.
Whilst trying to do what they want to do.
Good.
So what if they start at McDonald's? What if that's what they want to do? What if they want to move into the future and, end up being a manager or moving anywhere? And it's just
having your own franchise.
100%. It's the idea that there's some good jobs and some bad jobs. If you're good at maths and you're good at English, you're going to be a really high paid person. And if you do, that's not how it works. Is that how life works? But we make them feel like that. I read an article saying 1/3 of students have mental health issues in secondary school.
I read the same article, I think.
1/3.
Yeah.
So if you think our classes are about 30 people, 10 of your students are struggling.
Yeah.
And that's because of what you're feeding them, what you're telling them, what you're making them think about their future. Of course, GCSEs were stressful for everybody, and now more so because they have so many more exams and longer time periods in the exam as well.
Yeah.
It's a lot of stress, but added with you're not going to amount to anything. If you don't do this, you're not going to be successful.
Yeah.
It's just wrong.
We need to cut that out of teaching.
100% needs to go. And I'm not saying all teachers do it.
Yeah.
And teachers can't be 100% perfect. Sometimes they do need to try and instill fear into young people to get them to move. But telling somebody they're not going to amount to anything, or telling that you're never going to...
That's not the right motivation.
That is not right. The amount of students that I've worked with, last year, I didn't have any students that were predicted to get above 6. Right? Most of them were predicted to get 3 or a 4.
Yeah.
All my students, bar one, passed.
Yeah.
Every single one of them passed. And some of them even got a 6. And these were people that were told that you're not going to get anything. And it's not just me. It's not just because we've been practicing and I've given them a schedule and I've told them what to do. It's because I made them feel like it's possible.
Yeah.
The moment you make somebody feel like it's not possible, they might as well stop trying.
Yeah.
What's the point? Why would you even create that atmosphere in your classroom or in your school to make them feel like, it's not going to happen, you're not going to get more than a 2? Okay, so why are you nagging them? If you're telling them you're going to get a 2 and that's not good enough, why are we bothering?
Exactly.
It's ridiculous. And schools are meant to be safe spaces. Schools are meant to be places where you think, I'm going to be able to achieve something. I want to meet these people and I want to get into the future and have the career that I want. I want to know what paths are available to me. Not, oh, I'm going to get nagged by this teacher again.
Yeah.
Oh, they're going to tell me that I'm rubbish again. Oh, I'm going to feel stupid. I'm sitting in the back. No one's there to support me. That's not what life's about.
It's true.
It's not on.
So let's quickly touch on a very important topic that we're seeing come up in the news often, but I want to really see how we tackle it with the youth, which is racism. Now, racism has a very kind of weird way, or as a teacher, like racism, there's a very interesting way to kind of explain it to the children, because sometimes it's a case of, it's not even, well, right now it's not even the case of I need to teach them what racism is, because they've seen it, or they would have heard about it, or they would have been taught about it, and all they know is it's wrong, and more than the black and white, it's become so black and white with racism. But I'm very interested in their thought process behind how how a person explains racism, in a sense of why it still occurs, or even the case of why it could still occur today, and how you should react to it as well.
Exactly.
So my example that I always give is my dad. My dad migrated here in the 1990s. When he migrated here, he's never seen a black person in his entire life. In fact, he's probably never seen a white person or a black person in his entire life from back home. So we never have had that there. So he's coming into this country, which is a lot more diverse. He's seeing people from different countries and nationalities. His first time seeing it. Him having nothing, no experience, and meeting a black or white person, and then having a negative experience, whether that is because he's being racially abused by them, or he's being bullied by them. Because back in the 1990s, I used to live in Plaistow, and we had loads of gangs. And we grew up in a gang-filled area, that was back then. So the roads were very dangerous. So my dad was in a position where he'd see them, he'd have occurrences with them. What kind of impression he's going to get of a certain race, not having no idea of what they or how they are like, and how they react. And it's a very, unfortunately, a lot of people might look at it and think, oh, but that's not everyone. And it's true, it's not everyone. But now, as a man that's traveled hundreds of miles across to come to a country and is raising a kid, what is he going to say to the kid to protect him? And he's going to say, oh, okay, son, look, be careful of certain people. Be careful of certain people, because I'm being attacked.
Yeah.
You be careful, because I don't want you to fall into that bracket and you get attacked as well. That's a parent saying that. Now, that's not encourage. I mean, maybe that could, to us looking back in hindsight, you could be thinking, is he encouraging racism? Or is it just he's never experienced anything like that? However, we also had a Nigerian next door neighbor, and that family was such a lovely family, where my dad started looking after their kids, picking them up from school. They used to pick us up from school. We used to share food. We experienced each other's cultures, and then now my dad from then my dad had a balanced view, and then he started understanding, okay, cool, there's some really amazing people in the world, and there's some really bad people in the world. Maybe it's nothing to do with race at all.
100%.
Right? And it's not that he ever targeted race, but it was just the first thing he's ever experienced from a particular looking person, black or white. And that's what all he's got to feed from. And is that the case with today's form of racism? Is it that when you step out of London, you go to the countryside, or you go up north somewhere, or down south, wherever you go, and it's a white-filled community, is it that they really hate Muslims, or they really hate Asian people or black people, and they really, don't like Raheem Sterling, or they whatever it is that they have as a view? Is it that, or is it because they genuinely have no clue what it's like to actually be around coloured people, black, white, I don't know if colour is the right term for it, but black, white, Asian people, whatever kind of people, and they haven't actually experienced enough love from each other?
100%. The key word you said about your dad's view changing is understanding. Understanding is so important. When I used to learn RE, because in school is the only time I was exposed to other cultures, because at home, my family's Egyptian, my family's Egyptian. There's the only culture there. Our neighbours were English. We didn't really talk too much, so there's not much I could learn from them. So everything I learned was from the people I met in school. Understanding is so important. And I know I sound so like fairy. Oh my God, understanding, but it's so true. So my mum, she moved here to be with my dad, because my dad was born here.
Right.
But she moved to be here with my dad, and everything was alien to her. So she couldn't speak English. She had to learn English. She speaks English now, but she had learned so much about the West from where she was in Egypt. They were like, oh, all they do is drink. All they do is like sleep around with each other, stay away, like don't mix. So my mum was very, very closed, because she's like, we're not going to have anything in common. I can't go to the pub with them, etc., etc. Fast forward 15 years later, when she started working, her view changed completely 360 because she started speaking to individuals, not thinking about this generalized idea, because racism can happen to English people, white people as well. She literally thought, I'm never going to have friends that are English, it's just not going to happen. But then as soon as you started working with them, meeting them, going out for dinner, building friendships, it's completely different. And we need to create the same idea in schools. We live in England, most people are English. Yes, some areas are multicultural and diverse, but you can't expect a child to just all of a sudden, you know, ignore what their parents have taught them or what they've seen and just understand somebody else's culture and religion, especially if the facts they're getting from is the internet.
Yeah, and it take time to grow up in a community like that,
of course,
to get there, which is really interesting.
But how much do schools even work on that? About learning each other's cultures. I know some schools do. I remember my school used to do like a day where everybody could bring their own food into form and talk about their cultures, which is lovely, but we need more emphasis on that.
I think what we have it is a day, but it's like a massive, it's like the best day in the whole school, and it's a day, it's like a national day where everyone comes in, and what we do performances, we have stalls, and we have all of these kind of things. And it's not even the case of we want to teach people cultures, it's just a case of we want to be happy like eating each other's food, and we want to be happy seeing each other. You want to see someone do a Bhangra dance, and then someone do like some sort of different forms of African dancing, or even some sort of poetry, and like different forms of nationalities are being expressed through that as well. But yeah, I mean, I personally, I don't even think it's a school thing. I think it's for community builders, and school is a stakeholder in being a community builder, but it's not the only stakeholder in community building. Your parents count, your community counts, the people around you, your friends. Everyone has a stake in how you grow up and what views you actually have. So going back to like even the far right movement, you know, their friends and their circle of friends and the people on Facebook that they have on their Instagram, and then now it's the cookies that kind of generate more similar interests, which is more far right nonsense, and then that gets pushed on, and the narrative just gets fully blown out of proportion, and then suddenly there's hate crimes happening across the world, and it's not strange, it's not a coincidence, it's happening for a reason.
But Saif, if students don't understand each other's culture, I'm not saying it's school's responsibility, but schools where you go to learn, right? Parents of course have responsibility, and as you said, the community, if there's diversity, great, but if there isn't, then what? Whose responsibility is it? If parents, as you said, your dad had never seen a black or white person, if your community was just Asian and you never had to step out, where would you have learned about other cultures until you go into the world of work? And
when you do, you look at them so different that it's not even sometimes it's a fear, and sometimes it's a difference. It's us and them, which it doesn't help your general tolerance grow in any way, shape, or form. But then at the same time, if a school never had a Chinese person, should they now just start teaching Chinese just to help them assimilate with the Chinese culture? And I don't know if that's the correct way to go about it either. It's an interesting way. Like, yes, a lot of schools do different religion. In RS, for example, you learn about Sikhism, you learn about Hinduism. So now you know, or they will know that Guru Nanak's birthday, for example, was the other week, or you know, Diwali was the other day. But even those kind of occurrences, we still don't know much about each religion in that sense. And to be honest with you, how do I know about a Sikh or a Hindu culture? I personally didn't learn it like that in school either. I learned it by making friends with Sikh and Hindu people. Of course. And in the same way with Muslims or with Asians or with black people, the more friends you make, because if you're making friends, you have a very good connection. It's a stronger connection if you have good friends with someone that is from a different background than being in a class and learning their background, because it's more personal, it's more direct. You can ask whatever you want to ask within proportion, and you're not feeling like it's a structural thing that I have to learn for the sake of a lesson, but you're doing it because you genuinely want to get to know a person better. And you realize the best thing about it is it's another human being that has 5 fingers or 10 fingers or 8 fingers, however you want to be with it, and it's just a normal ordinary person, just a different color, different race. And I mean, there's interesting ways to learn about it, but imagine if would that be like a way to solve this kind of far right push? It won't solve racism, I believe, but in terms of far right push of getting people to actually understand each other's cultures, is it the case of there needs to be more discourse and dialogue between the nationalities or countries or races, which can actually help reduce conflict, I guess, or tension even?
And just increasing tolerance, just
Yeah.
being open to the fact that, yeah, I live in England, this is where I'm from, I
Yeah.
may do different, celebrate different festivals to you,
Yeah.
or have different beliefs to you, but we're all English,
Yeah.
we're all British, we're all
Yeah.
living in this
Yeah,
country
yeah,
together.
exactly.
So, of course, sitting everyone down and going, okay, Chinese culture,
Yeah.
Arab culture, Asian culture, it's how many
Yeah.
subcultures do you have in that? It's not
It's
realistic,
not
but
gonna work. Yeah.
being open and having conversations. If you're lucky enough to be, working in a school in London,
Yeah.
I imagine it's quite diverse in certain
Yeah,
areas.
yeah.
You have an amazing opportunity to, talk about different cultures. But for those schools that don't have diversity,
Yeah.
you need to be having a dialogue about the fact that there are other cultures,
Yeah.
and it doesn't always mean they don't mix.
Exactly.
Which is what it will
Exactly.
feel like if you've been to a school
Yeah.
and you were the only coloured person there.
Yeah.
You're going to feel really awkward whether you're integrating with other people in the diverse community or integrating with. It's very difficult. So it's more just creating tolerance and
Yeah.
increasing awareness that
Yeah.
people are different, but we're all people, right?